This is Top Shop Podcast.
Shop Podcast.
Top Shop Podcast.
Podcast for automotive service business owners by Paul Donahue.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Top Shop Podcast. As usual, we have a great guest. I work really hard to get guests that are going to bring really good information to other auto repair shop owners. Mary Ann Croce. I first got introduced to her through her writing with the ASA. I joined the ASA when I decided to take my agency and specialize in automotive repair shops. I immediately joined quite a few associations. ASA was one of the first ones. And I started reading her articles, and I'm like, wow, I'd love to have her on my podcast. So here she is. So a really unique guest. I have had a couple of other guests like this on the show. Jim Silverman was one of them, some other people. Tom Ham, Automotive Management Network. These are people that I consider special guests because they are shop owners and they provide services. So when another shop owner is providing services, because Mary Ann started small Biz Vantage, small B-I-Z Vantage.com. So it's a coaching. So she hired a coach, and now she has been providing coaching services. So we're probably going to do two podcasts. This podcast is for the shop owners with the experience, because Mary Ann and her husband, Tony, they're in Norwalk, Connecticut. They own a Pro Crochet Transmission Specialist, and they've been there for 25 years. And here's the thing. Mary Ann is an owner. She goes into the shop 2-3 times a week. Tom Ham at the Automotive Management Network, and if you don't know what that is and you're watching this podcast, look it up. Because you want to get involved with Tom Ham. It's a couple $100 a year to get access to thousands of standard operating procedure, hundreds of standard operating procedures, all of the prices all across that are being charged for repairs. It's all in Automotive Management Network. So this isn't about Tom, but Tom lives in Florida, and his very successful shop is in Michigan, and he's lived in Florida for a long time. So I'm always interested in talking to shop owners that mastered what I'm trying to do and what a lot of other business owners are trying to do. I'm working in my business. I want to get to the point where I'm working on my business and I'm the owner. Right now, I'm the CEO of my company, but I don't own my business. I can't walk away from it and it's going to run itself. And that's the most important part. And when you go to resell, I wrote this down just a little bit ago, so many shop owners are retiring. They don't sell their shops. They just close. What a waste.
Yeah. That's sad.
It is, 30, 40 years, 50 years in the business, and they just close the doors. So
good people, they put so much effort and money and time into it.
Right. And so if they would have focused on being able to run the shop, not work in the shop, then they would have had a sellable asset, because one of the first things that the company looks at that buys up smaller companies is, do we need the owner to make this work? If they don't, that's one of the number one considerations. So if I want to sell this 5-10 years down the road, the first thing that another company is going to look at is, does this guy need to be involved to make all this work? If the answer is no, then I am an option to buy. If I'm the cog that makes all the wheels work, they have no interest. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead. Let's get started. Mary Ann, I hope that was a good introduction.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
All right. So tell me about your journey to success, how you got started. When I originally talked with you, you come from banking and retail. So tell me how you made it from banking and retail to a transmission shop owner. Got to hear that one.
Yeah, right. So my family, to put this into context, my family, when I grew up as a kid, my family they had a small construction remodeling business. So I understood the skilled trades. I understood what that was like being in there. And it was my grandfather, my dad, my brother. And for a short period of time, I even worked in the business for a little while. But when I went out into the world, I went into banking, and I absolutely loved it. And a lot of the reasons that I loved banking are actually a lot of reasons that shop owners become shop owners. They have a skill, they have something that they're good at, and they really want to help people. And when I talk with shop owners one-on-one, that's really what they want to do. Yes, many of them say, I want to fix cars, but they really want to help people. They want people to feel secure and confident in the work that they're doing. So my husband, we met in high school, And my husband always wanted to be an owner. He was a technician, and he had worked for a company for about 18 years. And he decided that it was time to leave. He started thinking about lots of ideas to make the shop more efficient, to bring on the new technology, to get training. And he approached the owner, and the owner basically told him that I don't pay you to think, I pay you to work on the cars. So that was the type of culture that was there.
Oh,
And
gosh.
yeah. And that, what little did we know at that time, that that was the beginning of the end of him really thinking that he was going to work there. But it also was the beginning of his mind opening up to the possibility of him opening and having his own shop. So we started talking about it and decided that my skills from working in banking and his skills set from being in the industry and being, a master tech, both of those combined would be great for opening up a shop. We don't know it all, and we know there's a lot we're going to have to learn, but it would be a great start. So that's how we got started.
Yeah. And here we are 25 years later. So
Yes.
I always interview shop owners on my, when my wife and I decided, hey, we need to have a podcast. And then it was like, well, what's the criteria? And then I saw that statistic that 80% of shops fail within the first 5 years.
Mm.
Of the 20% that make it, 80% of those fail in the next 5 years. So I said, okay, there's my criteria. I don't care if they got 2 bays in their garage. If they've been in business over 10 years, I want to talk to them because they stood the test of time. So 25 years later, yeah, you guys have been there for a long time now. About how many years do you think it took you? Because I know, believe me, I know, just starting a business, how long did it take you to actually finally get to the point to where you could go on vacation 2 weeks and things would be operating better when you got back?
Well, I want to say it should have happened earlier than it did. But right, it did because we started doing it right after we opened, probably within that second year of us being open, because that was one of the criteria that I said to my husband, if we're going into business together and we're going to be working together, we need to be able to take at least a week away every year and do something with our kids, because opening up any business initially in that, first couple of years, that's where all the drive and the grit, and you're learning so many new skills. It takes a toll, right, on everything, your personal life, everything that you're learning. But I wanted to put a limit on that. I didn't want that to be forever. Right. So I said, one of the things is we have to go away. And we did. I live in Connecticut, and he was willing to go away to Rhode Island, which is an hour drive away. And we went in the summer and took the kids, rented a house and took the kids to the beach. But the first time we went, he lasted about 3 days, and then he felt like he had to go back. And I said, okay, this isn't going to work. So secretly I said to myself, I'm going to have to get him on a plane. So that's what we did going forward. I mean, we did do the Rhode Island thing for quite a few years, probably 4 years, but I said, we have to go away so that you can really detach a little bit from work, because you don't realize it when you're an owner that you need that time. And when you come back, you're actually fueled. Right. And it actually gives your team an opportunity to shine. It gives them a team, that whole team, an opportunity to grow.
Yep. I'll just remind all our listeners, the word recreation comes from 2 words, recreate. So it's really imperative. That's why they say getting out in nature. I love to ski. I am a ski junkie. I get out in the woods. I'm a very good skier. I ski in trees. I'm not on the groomers where you see tons of people. I'm in the trees and I'm with nature, and you cannot focus on anything except for what's right in front of your skis. Otherwise, it can hurt really bad. So that's my thing. Everybody's got their own. Some it's fishing, whatever, something that disconnects the mind from this. My wife and I have the same challenge. The first 2 or 3 years that we really went down this road, we'd wake up in the morning and start talking about the business in bed. And it's like, why, we got to stop this. So
Exactly.
our brains are just, and it's all day, every single day. So it's really important to get away. And you realize that early on. You mentioned that the shop that your husband used to work at, and they actually told him, I don't pay you to think. So their core values weren't exactly, strong.
Well, they didn't align with ours, right? That was the thing. So they didn't align. And at that time, I think there was probably a little bit of fear of leaving and starting all over again, and getting a job. He had applied at a few places and they told him he was overqualified. So, yeah.
Start your own business.
Right. So it was time. So that was really the thing that really pushed us both. And we decided to dive into the deep end and we were going to do it.
So that's one of the questions I like to ask successful shop owners. What are the core values or guiding principles that have contributed to your shop success?
So for us, one of the main core values that we had was respect. And it's a two-way street. You have to give respect. You have to show respect to people. We feel it needs to be earned. It's just not handed out. So that was something that was really important. And that really guided us because we wanted everyone on our team to know that, of course, we respect them. We value them. We appreciate what they bring to the table, but they need to show respect too, to everyone that walked in that door. I don't care who they were, what their reason for being there was. Everyone was going to be treated with respect. So it's important to think about your core values, but that was definitely a high one for me. When I talk to people that are coming into the industry, shop owners, especially, new shop owners, because they have that grit and that drive. Sometimes when you're making a list of your core values, because I've seen this exercise done numerous times, there's a lot of things that are meaningful to you. You might come up with 10 or 12 different things. I say narrow it down to about 3 to 5. And sometimes the best way to find out what your core value is find the thing that really ticks you off when you see it. So for me, if I was outside of work, and let's say I was in a restaurant and I saw a service person, a waiter or waitress really being treated awful, right? Terrible by a really rude customer, that to me goes against my core value, because even if they have a concern or a complaint, there's no reason to act the way that they are, right? So when you, I'm just using that as an example, but when you see something or you know that something kind of gets under your skin, chances are it's part of your core values.
Okay, awesome. How do you approach decision making in your business? Do you have any specific strategies or frameworks or
for decision making?
Yeah,
absolutely. So when you're going to make a decision about anything, the main thing is you have to look at it from not just your point of view. You have to look at it from the customer's point of view, the health of the business, because a lot of times we only look at inside the 4 walls of our shop. How is this going to affect me personally? Well, we have to think of the team as well. Are we putting more on the team? Are we giving them resources to do what we need to do? So I think going beyond the 4 walls of your shop and really thinking of others, thinking of how this decision is going to affect your customers. Maybe it's something of how it's going to affect your suppliers, your vendors, because all of those people that are there to support you and help you, how is it going to affect them? So I think that decision making for me is definitely more than just what's going on inside the shop. And that was a big shift when you think about like mindset or how you think, your point of view, the way you look at things. That was a big shift for me.
Oh, awesome. I love asking this one. Describe a major setback or failure that you've encountered along the way and how you overcame it. Now, a major setback. So in 25 years, you probably had more than 1 or 2.
Yeah. Two come to mind right off the bat. There's been many, but for one of the early ones, I would say, that was the challenge that we definitely had of learning how to work together, my husband and I.
Oh, you and your husband. Okay.
Yes, because we were
Me
busy.
and my wife had some interesting conversations working.
So the setback for us was in the beginning, we were so excited and we were learning different things. And I was like a sponge. I wanted to go to all these industry conferences. He was the technical person, but I was really handling more of the management side. And I wanted to learn things, even though I had a financial background from banking. I wasn't sure in the industry what exactly the metrics were in this industry. I understood a little bit more about construction, but not so much the automotive. So I wanted to learn, and I was a sponge. So with that being said, we were both learning new things. And when I was going through something and learning, he was very supportive and understanding. And when he was doing that, I was understanding and supportive. But when we were both feeling that at the same time, we couldn't see each other struggle. And that was probably the hardest time for us. And we were like, wow, this is affecting our relationship. We're bringing stuff up at home. We're frustrated with each other. So once we identified that, sat down and talked about that, it probably wasn't sitting down. It was probably going outside for a walk, because I live near a park, and I'm 100% in agreement with you that being outside in nature definitely helps clear your head. So it was probably during a walk that we had that discussion and we realized what was happening. And then once we did, we were able to overcome that.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, because you can't work on something that you don't
like we didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah,
it was one of those things. And then the second thing was definitely personal for me. So when we opened, I was at the front counter and my husband was a technician. That was his role. And I was at the front counter and I was, managing the phones and the people that were coming in. And I was also, doing all of the bookwork and the bookkeeping. So I realized very quickly that I had to deal with the phones and the people that were coming in priority. That was first. Well, the bookwork didn't get done until, after 5:00. So I was putting in a lot of hours and I was really, really tired. And what I realized was, because I was so tired, because I was really drained and I felt overloaded with everything that was going on in the course of a day, that I was getting frustrated by some of the things that customers were asking me on the phone because I wasn't technical. And I was getting frustrated. And my frustration, I realized one day when I came home and I said, I don't like this feeling. I don't like this frustration that I'm feeling, because we're here to serve these people, right? And so this isn't me. Why am I feeling this way? So what I realized was the questions that they were asking me, well, how much does this cost? Or I don't understand, or, just different things about different components in the vehicle. What I had to realize when I came home was it was the way that I was handling the phone call. I had to learn how to do that better. And I went back to my banking days. We had a process, we had a system in place. So I said, wait a minute, I already know our process of how we check in vehicles and how we go and we test them and diagnose them. All I have to do is walk them through our process. It wasn't them, it was me. So when I went back the next day, I had a shift in my mindset, the way I was approaching it. I wasn't frustrated anymore. And it was amazing how it changed, because now they were I didn't realize that. Okay. Thanks for the information. Let's schedule an appointment, that type of thing. And I was enjoying what I was doing again.
Awesome. Excellent examples. Now, you mentioned when I talked to you before, mentorship. So, and I'll just mention this, that most of the successful shop owners that I see that aren't struggling, well, any business to grow it is a struggle, but that are doing better with less struggle are all the shop owners that have two things: a really good digital marketing agency that's driving them to leads, if they're not just relying solely on referral. Actually, it's three, I'm sorry. A mentorship, a coach. They have a coach, digital marketing agency that knows what they're doing, okay, and training. All three of those, Vision Trade Show obviously is fantastic for getting training for techs, managers, and owners. So those three things I always see. So you had mentioned a long time ago about mentorship. So what role has mentorship played in your career? And have you had any influential mentors? And what lessons did you learn from them?
Yeah, so mentorship, from the point of me receiving mentorship, absolutely, it played a huge role. And both mentors from both inside the industry and outside of the industry have really helped me grow. I think the idea of mentorship is you have to have an open mind that, you don't know it all and you're willing to learn, because we all have blind spots. And a mentor can really help you with that because they've done it, they've been there. And so they can help you navigate through that. So mentorship is absolutely hands down something. And I still have mentors, 25 years in the business, and I still have mentors. The other thing about mentorship is you can become a mentor, which is, as a shop owner, you can become a mentor. And we got involved early on with schools, Tony and I. We sit on advisory boards at the high school level, and we also do it at secondary school level as well with, automotive training and in our area. And it's really, really helpful to go in and talk to these young people. Give your time, go there and do mock interviews. These schools are looking for people to do that. We hired this year one of the students from a high school who actually did job shadowing. That was another thing that you could do in your shop. So they come for a day and they kind of, visit your shop and see what it's like in your world. And we had a gentleman that came and applied and said, I can start the week after I graduate. So that was really exciting. Another thing that we got involved in quite a few years ago, maybe, 13 years ago now or more, we got involved with eighth grade career nights. And those are really rewarding as well because they bring a parent with them. And what's really good about that is parents are huge influencers in this industry. Mm-hmm. So if a young person were to say, wow, I'm really interested in automotive, and a parent kind of gives a look or an expression like, what do you want to do that for? Right away, you're influencing your child in a very negative way that's not really something that you approve of or you think would be a good idea. And many well-meaning parents want their children to succeed. So by going out there and doing that, doing an eighth grade career night or career day or whatever it is in your area, you're able to not only show the eighth graders what it's like, but you're able to show the parents. And we've had many parents over the last 13 years come up to us afterwards and said, I had no idea of the opportunities in this industry. So we know we're helping by doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I call it the college hustle. So Robert Kiyosaki talks about it in I've read all of his books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The society is sold, go to school, get good grades, get a good job. So the trade jobs went by the side because I need to go to college so I can be a college educated person who's unemployed looking for a job. Meanwhile, the kid that decides he likes auto mechanics gets into auto mechanics, learns, takes training, becomes a master technician. He's making $100K, $140K plus, So
benefits, right? Benefits, right?
And our master's degree guy is struggling to get a job. In fact, they can't get a job in the industry that they were going after. A statistic that's rarely known by parents or even college kids is that they're over 80% of people are in a field totally and completely different within 5 months or 5 years, 60 months after getting a college degree in some field. 80% in 60 months later are in something totally and completely different. So
I saw that with my own children. They're all grown, but with their friends, many of them were very discouraged because of the money and the loan debt that they had, and they weren't even in the field that they went to school for.
Right. Yep. And they're paying off all these loans.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I saw that with a lot of their
degree that they don't even use.
Right.
Yeah. I call it the college hustle. So it's I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it's all run by some very rich people who want to make sure that they get their ideology into the school systems. So I'll stop there before don't want to go too deep into that.
But parents are influencers, right? And they do want the best for their kids. They do. Everybody does. So if that's their belief, this is a great opportunity to go in and position the automotive industry as a real viable career opportunity for them if these are the types of things that they're interested in. I mean, a lot of the kids today, computers, technology, robotics, all of those things, those would be kids that would be great in the automotive industry.
Yeah. So every high school in Ohio, when I was growing up, had an auto mechanics class in high school. So it was considered a very honorable career then. And then they shift, oh, no, you got to get a degree, Right. And then now there's a big glut in the system. And so they're paying technicians top dollar because they don't have enough of them. So anyway, let's go. I want to stay on company culture. And by the way, your answers to my questions are great. How do you build and maintain a strong company culture? Because it's really, really important that the shops do culture. I've heard all kinds of answers to this. Almost every shop that I've talked to that I believe in my heart has a decent culture, even though I haven't been to their shop, they all have some sort of weekly meal together, family that eats together, stays together type thing. So there's all different types of ways that it's done. You do it through attitude, through respect. I've already heard that, So what would you say are the ways that you've built and maintained your particular shop's company culture?
The main thing is relationships. When you bring someone on as a team member, that they're interviewing you as much as you're interviewing them at that first stage. And when you offer them a job and they take the job, they can feel the culture in that shop. Even your parts delivery people come in and they do a quick in and out, they can feel the culture in your shop. So it exists, even if you're not focusing on it, even if you're not thinking about it, and they can tell what kind of culture you have. So for me, a positive culture, a healthy culture in that shop is an environment that people can learn and grow, and that they're proud to be part of something bigger than themselves. So for us, we decided when we first opened up the shop that we wanted to be a resource to our customers and our community. Very simple, very basic. But what that meant as a resource is even if someone came to us and we didn't do that type of work, then we would refer them to someone who did, because we wanted to be the go-to place. We wanted to be a resource no matter what their needs were. And that really grew because as a transmission shop, we built great relationships with other shops, and our team liked that. They like the part of being something bigger, being involved with something bigger. We got involved with the community, got involved in the chamber. There were any ways that we could help out, then we did. Donating to different causes that were near and dear to us. That was a big thing as well. The other part eventually grew. And I said, you know what? It was training. This resource piece, my team needs training. So I started asking my team, what do you feel you need more training on? And I asked individual technicians, and they would tell me. And there was a common theme. So what we figured out was we have to support them and give them the training. So building these relationships and knowing what your team needs was huge, seeing them as people. The other thing was also finding out what motivates them. There were technicians that said, I want to buy a home. So it was great, right? When one of our technicians was able to buy a home, and then the second technician was able to, and then the third. And these were all huge milestones that they saw that their job was connected to their ability to be able to do that. So we were there to help them along the way and really, encourage them and support them. So what we want to do is be a resource to them. And then lastly, we decided that we wanted to be a resource to the next generation of young men and women coming into the industry. So all this evolved over a few years. It wasn't day one. as we learned and grew, but now I call it my three-legged stool approach. But that was really how we developed. And, when we were talking about my team and we were talking about encouraging them, I said, we could actually help industry peers as well. And I started jumping on forums because this was before social media. And we started jumping on forums because I would be involved and I would share. I would just say, you know what, here's what's working in our shop. Here's a mistake or a lesson that we learned, what wasn't working. And this is how we figured it out. And I started sharing because I knew that there were other people that were going through the same thing and maybe they would share as well. So that's how I got really approached by some of the associations to, would you come and share because you've been doing this already? Would you come and share and speak? So what afforded me to be able to do this, to be able to get into the coaching that you said, small Biz Vantage, and do all this, create the framework that I have to run the shop, the systems and processes. The reason that I was able to do this was the culture that we created in the shop. I wanted to make myself dispensable and empower my team so that the shop can run if I wasn't there, with or without me there. And I think if you build a culture like that you trust your team and you support them and give them the tools and the resources needed, and then step away, I think that's really huge. The other part of this that I see when I speak to shop owners, I'm at an event and I'm away from my shop, is they'll take their phone and they're looking at their phone and they're, oh my gosh, I'm getting all these text messages, or I can't wait for break because my phone is blowing up, right? I've got all these messages from the shop. I think a lot of times we have to shift our perspective, how we're looking at the business, our vantage, if you will. And the reason why is because we're not there to critique them. I feel when you step away from the shop, it's actually a litmus test for yourself. Did I supply them with everything that they needed to make the proper decisions? Am I allowing them to make those decisions? Or do they feel that they have to keep checking in and running to me? So that's more, I think, as an owner type of thing, to check in and assess yourself, than to go back and constantly look at that as maybe criticizing the team.
Okay, awesome. You already touched on this a little bit earlier, but can you share any strategies for the balancing the work and personal life? I think you really came up with a really super important one. You noticed that there was stress in your relationship. You were smart enough to sit down for a minute and say why, and then go for walks with your husband. Would you say that was one of the best things that you...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That was probably one of the best things. I think also another thing would be when you think about stress, and you're always going to have, that's just part of life, right? It's just part of life, no matter what stage of life we're in. If we have young children, older children that are in school, grown children, and now I'm in a situation where I have a grandson, or aging parents, there's always going to be demands no matter what stage of life you're in.
Right. Except one, when you're dead, you have no stress.
No. But my philosophy, the way I look at it, is it's a journey. Life is a journey.
Sure.
Your business, growing your business, is a journey. Trust the journey. I believe that we're all capable of more than we realize we are. I believe that a lot of the things that we have in us, we have the tools that we need. A lot of times we just need a little direction. Shop owners that I talk to, sometimes they're just really hard on themselves and down on themselves, especially when they're starting out and they feel like they're overloaded with everything that's coming at them. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, you're not broken, right? You just need a direction. That's really what it is, and the tools and resources to do it. But we're all capable of more than we realize. But to your point, I think that looking at it from that way helps me focus on the positive and growing, instead of staying stuck in the negative. When a challenge happens, a challenge comes up, it's so easy to sit there today and say, okay, things like, for example, there's nobody good out there. I can't find anybody. I can't hire. Well, if you keep saying that to yourself, right? You're not really doing anything or changing anything to be able to go out there and get a different result. The same thing with, I can't afford to hire, the top talent that I want. Okay, so what do you have to do that, right? So we're looking in the wrong direction. So I think looking on that, taking that positive spin on it, but also being very practical about what's going on in your area and being realistic, that really helps me handle the stresses that happen. And it's one of the reasons why I, created and was able to, get into the coaching and create, the system that I created, 3-day weekends. I really wanted shop owners, just like myself and my husband. You put so much effort, so much money, so much time into this. And you know what? A lot of times life is what we sacrifice. Time with our kids, time with our families. The example that I gave with not being able to go on vacation. And I wanted people to be able to do that. So once I saw what was working, my idea was share it with other people so it could help them. Because there's so many good people in this industry. I've met hundreds of people over the years at different events, and everyone has their own story, and they're amazing stories.
Yeah, I've met a lot of amazing people so far, and I've been trying to get a lot of them on the podcast. So, banker, great question for the banker. And this is very important. There's a lot of shops that get started, and there's so many different things they need to focus on to make things work correctly. And one of them is finances, if they don't handle finances correctly. So what are some of the most important lessons you've learned about managing finances and making wise investments in your shop?
Yeah. So when it comes to finances, a lot of people are scared. A lot of owners are like, finances aren't my thing, right? I know how to work on cars. But what I say is you're totally capable of doing this. So understand, get with a mentor, get with someone that will help you, a coach, and get to know your financials. Know them and understand them, because numbers can really be exciting and fun once you understand them. And today is very different than 25 years ago, because your shop management software that you have, the reports on there are amazing. There's so many different things that you can learn. And I find that a lot of shop owners are only using a small percentage of what's available in that shop management software, a small percentage. And those are one of the 3 things that I tell people never to give up as an owner, because my goal when I am talking with shop owners, from my experience, this is what worked with me really well, is you want to start taking things off your plate. That's how I am fortunate enough to be able to not be in my shop every single day, and the shop still runs. I can go to conferences, I can speak, I can be on boards, advisory boards in the school, and even associations in the industry. I serve on a few boards. So the idea is, how could you do all that and be a shop owner? Well, because I've removed myself from a lot of the day-to-day. Right. And I have an amazing team. But there's 3 things that I tell shop owners that they should never, ever let go of. And one of them is knowing and understanding your financials. You can have an accountant. Well, you should have an accountant. Absolutely. You can get a bookkeeper. That's fine. But you still want to understand and know those financials. You want to be able to pull up a statement at any time and look at it and understand it. So you don't want to just relinquish that completely and then be shocked at the end of the year if you made money or you didn't make money. You want to know that. The other thing is marketing is very important. So you're going to have an agency, you're going to have people that help you with website, with all of those different things. But I think that an owner should always be involved in their messaging. They should know who their ideal client is, their market, and they should be able to talk to them, speak to them. And this way, when you hire someone, it's great because you can work with them and they understand where you're coming from and you understand that the advice that they're giving you is going to work for you. So I think that they should always understand that messaging and who their ideal client is, because that's going to come down to core values as well.
Yep, sure is.
And who they don't want. So I think that's important. And the last piece of it is relationships. I believe that you want to build relationships with your team. You want to build relationships with people. And I would never let go of that completely because I want to be part of it. And that's why what I do go into the shop, and I do that because I want to have that connection with the team.
That's awesome. And you're preaching to the choir with numbers. I still talk to auto repair shop owners every week. That's my business. And we're on discovery calls to see if we're a good fit, if we might be a good fit, because we don't take everybody. And are you doing paid PPC, paid ads? Yeah. How much are you investing a month? Oh, 800, 1,800, whatever the number is. How much revenue did that bring you back last month? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Wrong answer.
Right.
Stop doing PPC. Any owner, if you're listening to this, if you're doing Facebook ads, if you're doing PPC, and you cannot answer that question, this is how much I invested. This is how much came into my shop from these ads. Stop doing it and find a digital marketing agency. Or if you're DIYing it yourself, then you're wasting a lot of money. You have to know the answer to that question. And that's just one thing. And like you said, between the Tech Metric, Shop Monkey, all these big, huge, really great software. There is no great software program. They all suck. I use Zoho.
Nothing's perfect, right? Just like we're not perfect,
Right.
but they all
There's
have
no
good.
perfect software program. But compared to what, like you said, we had years ago, what these bigger shop management programs bring, between the numbers there and the numbers that you get from your digital marketing agency, how many leads came in? Where did they come from? How many came from Google profile? How many came from organic search? How many came from Facebook ads? How many came from Yelp or whatever source? And then what was the total amount that you invested that month? And then this is your average cost per lead that came in. Now, how many of those leads converted into sales? And all the shop owners that know those numbers, those are the ones that grow because they know
Absolutely.
they're not throwing stuff at the wall hoping some of it sticks. They know their numbers. So that's probably one of the best.
They're not going by their gut. They actually have real data.
Right. Yeah. And I take great pleasure in working with a shop owner that doesn't have that. And I get them to that point. Mm-hmm. Because they always come back and say the same thing. Wow, I really wish I would have done this years ago. Same thing every time. Last question, really good question. What advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur who is just starting their business?
So, yes, I would say to someone who's just starting out is you're capable of more than you realize. You can do this. My advice is definitely think about it from not just your perspective, but think about it beyond the shop. Because what's going to happen is you want to have a life. Most people tell me that they want a life besides just having the work. Mm-hmm. So make that important. When you set up that business, design that business so that it works for you. Don't give up your personal life. It's okay. It's okay to say no to a client that isn't the ideal client. But the biggest thing is when you look at things that you can outsource, things that you can delegate. Because I know when we first start out, everyone thinks that they have to do everything themselves. There's a lot of things out there that you look at as a cost, but they're really an investment in your company because you're going to get a return. Just like you were saying, Paul, with the marketing. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's not a cost. It's you're investing back. And you have to look at these people, whether it's your website, whether it's the marketing, whether it's your accountant, all of these types of people that you have, even your banker, when you have these people are people that are on your team. They're there to advise you, and look at them as trusted advisors. So I know that was kind of a long-winded answer, but be curious, be open-minded, and be willing to consider these people as part of your team. There's no such thing as a silly question, especially when you're first starting out, because there's so much to learn. And when you do have someone on board on your team, when you have those trusted advisors, they're not going to think of it as a silly question. They're going to know that that's what you need help with, and they're going to be there to guide you.
Right. So I'll follow up with that with the most important thing that you could do is get a coach. And we're going to talk about that because Mary Ann is a coach and she owns Small Biz Vantage. We're going to have another podcast that's specifically about Small Biz Vantage, how she got started in that, and how she benefits the shop owners, and then get a digital marketing agency. So it's really difficult because you need to spend money in all these different places when you're first getting started. But the shop owners that immediately understand that if I'm going to grow, I need to do it beyond referral, where you can do it referral if you got 10, 15, 25 years to build the clientele. If you want to get moving quicker, you need a really good digital presence. And then you need a coach that's already done what you've been are going to be trying to do. They've already done it. They've already been through the trial and error. They already know exactly where to direct you. They can give you a list of things that you can do. Then you meet with them next week and say, where are we with getting those things done? So they can help you with the mindset of saying, don't think of working in the shop. Always think of working on the shop. What can you do? So
They pay for themselves, Paul.
Yeah.
They pay for themselves, right?
They call them investments, right? When you hook up with the right digital marketing agency, there is no expense. They're bringing you more leads and money. When you hook up with the right coach, that's not an expense. You're going to go 10 times faster. One of the most successful, I've got shelves of books here that I've read over the years. And one of the number one success principles that very few people take advantage of is seek out those who've already done what you want to do and learn from them. Mm-hmm. It's the number one way to go anywhere fast. You try to figure it out yourself or get with somebody that's already done it.
Right. We'll probably end up talking about this when we talk about the coaching, but most shop owners, I think, get that concept because the majority of them are technicians and then they become shop owners. And they probably see that when they became that technician, right? They started out day one. They weren't a master tech by any means. But to get there, they probably learned along the way and will remember different technicians that they were like, wow, they didn't even think of it, that they were mentoring me, but they really did. That person was really helpful and I learned so much from them. So they were mentored along their years of, that journey to become that master technician. And it's the same thing when owning a business. It's not any different. And they've already done it in many cases.
Yep. So, Mary Ann, thank you very much for your time. I will get to see you personally next week.
Yes, I'm excited.
Conference. We are both speaking. I'm speaking on digital marketing. You're speaking on coaching at the ASTA conference. Shop owners, if you don't know what the ASTA is, look it up.
For additional automotive resources and exclusive content, follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all our episodes. Thanks again for joining us in the driver's seat, and we'll see you next time for another thrilling episode of Top Shop.